You felt it the second the room went quiet. You reached out once, just once, when it actually mattered, and the silence answered for them. You counted the people you'd shown up for, and then you counted the ones who showed up for you, and the second number was a wound. You've sat in a car outside your own life, engine off, realizing that if you disappeared tonight, the inconvenience to most people would be mild and brief. And here is the lie they fed you for 30 years. They told you a good life is built on people, that if you were kind enough, loyal enough, useful enough, the right ones would stay, and the world would hold you up. So you outsourced your foundation to other human beings, and then spent your life confused about why the ground kept moving. You didn't land here by accident. The algorithm didn't slip. You arrived here because some part of you already suspects the truth that the comfortable will never say out loud. That the isolation you've been treating as your greatest failure may be the exact condition that builds the rarest kind of human being. And once you see why, you will not be able to unsee it. Sit with what Machiavelli is telling you, because 5 centuries of comfortable people have softened it into a footnote. He spent his life studying who rose and who was crushed, and he reached a conclusion that polite society finds unbearable. The help you lean on does not strengthen you. It either abandons you at the moment of pressure, slows you with its own weight, or quietly chains you to the people you depend on. Every borrowed arm is a future betrayal wearing the mask of support. You were never taught this because the people teaching you needed you dependent. Think about who benefits from your belief that you cannot stand alone. A person who needs the group cannot leave the group. A person who needs approval can be steered with approval. A person terrified of being alone will accept being mistreated, because mistreatment with company feels safer than dignity in solitude. The entire architecture of how you were raised, be agreeable, be useful, don't make waves, keep people happy, was not designed to make you strong. It was designed to make you manageable. And the most manageable human being on earth is the one who believes their survival depends on being liked. So here is what I'm going to give you in the next several minutes, and I need you to understand it is not motivation. This is dark psychology in its truest sense, the study of how power, the psyche, and human nature actually operate beneath the story we're sold. I'm going to show you why no friends, no help, and no excuses is not the description of a broken life. It's the description of a forge. I'm going to show you what is being made in the heat you've been cursing. And by the end, you will understand the meaning of the thumbnail that pulled you in. Why it's over and you made it are the same sentence. But that only makes sense at the end, so stay with me. If these ideas resonate with you, hit that subscribe button for more top-tier content. Also, drop a forged in the comments so I know you're ready. Let's dive in. Let's begin with the room, the empty one. The one you walk into after the event everyone else is still at. The one where your text sits on delivered and never moves to read. The one inside your own chest at 2 in the morning when you finally stop performing for the day and there is no one left to perform for. Most people will tell you that room is a problem to be solved. Fill it. Find your people. Network harder, love harder, become more likable. They treat your solitude like a leak to be plugged. And so you've spent years trying to fill a room that, I'm about to argue, was never meant to be full. Here is the uncomfortable truth, and I want you to actually feel it land rather than nodding past it. The reason the room stays empty is not that you are unlovable. It's that you have been auditioning. You walk into relationships carrying an invoice you never show anyone, all the loyalty you've extended, all the times you remembered, all the help you gave without being asked, and you quietly expect the universe to pay it back through other people. And when it doesn't, you don't get angry, you get confused, and then you get ashamed, and the shame whispers that the deficit must be you. Stay in that discomfort for one more second, because this is the moment most people flinch away from. You have at times used your kindness as a transaction and called it love. You gave to be needed. You showed up to be indispensable. You made yourself useful because somewhere underneath you believed that usefulness was the rent you had to pay to be allowed to exist in someone's life. Now exhale, because here is the reframe, and it changes everything. That pattern isn't a moral failure. It's a survival strategy you installed as a child when your safety genuinely did depend on keeping someone else happy. It worked then. It kept you safe then. It is simply obsolete now. A brilliant solution to a problem that no longer exists. You don't need to be ashamed of the strategy. You need to retire it, because the person you are becoming does not pay rent to exist. And the moment you stop paying that rent, the empty room changes character. It stops being a verdict on your worth. It becomes something else entirely. And what it becomes is the whole subject of everything that follows. Carl Jung had a name for the work that can only happen in that room, and most people will live and die without ever doing it. Jung called it individuation, the process by which a person stops being an assembled collection of other people's expectations and becomes an actual, indivisible self. And here is the part the self-help world quietly removes because it doesn't sell well. Individuation cannot be done in a crowd. It cannot be outsourced. It cannot be group purchased. The deepest layer of self-mastery is only available to the person willing to be alone long enough to meet themselves without an audience. Because in a crowd, you are always partly performing. There is always a face you're managing, a reaction you're tracking, a version of you being adjusted in real time to keep the room comfortable. Most people have never once experienced their own unedited mind. They have never met the self that exists when no one is watching, because they have never been alone long enough to be introduced. You have. That's the part you've been mislabeling. While the connected and the comfortable were busy being mirrors for each other, you were handed the one condition that produces depth: forced, unwanted, painful solitude. You called it loneliness. I'm telling you, it was tuition. Now here is the first reversal, and I want you to feel the floor shift, because everything I've said so far was only half the truth. I've been describing solitude as something that happened to you. It didn't. Past a certain point, you chose it. Look honestly at the friendships you let quietly die, the calls you stopped returning, the rooms you walked out of. You told yourself they abandoned you. But some part of you was withdrawing on purpose, because the performance had become unbearable, because pretending to be smaller and softer and more agreeable than you are was costing more than the connection was worth. You weren't only left, you were also leaving. And the part of you that did the leaving, that was the first sign of the king waking up. This is the forge. Iron does not become a blade in the company of other iron. It becomes a blade alone, in heat that looks exactly like destruction from the outside. Anyone watching the forge who didn't understand the process would beg you to pull the metal out. You're burning it, you're ruining it, get it out of the fire. That voice, the one that says your solitude is killing you, is the voice of someone who has never seen what the fire is for. The heat you've been feeling isn't punishment, it's the forge, and you do not yet know what's being made. But notice, I still haven't told you why help itself is the thing that keeps most people soft. I've told you solitude builds. I haven't told you why connection, the good kind, the kind everyone chases, so often deforms. That's next, and it's the part that will make you reconsider every safety net you've ever wanted. Machiavelli watched a specific thing destroy powerful men over and over, and it wasn't their enemies. It was their support. The prince who relied on borrowed armies, borrowed alliances, borrowed goodwill. He ruled only until the moment that borrowed strength decided its interests lay elsewhere. He who builds on the people, Machiavelli warned, builds on mud. Not because people are evil, because people are people. Their loyalty is real, and it is also conditional, and the condition is their own advantage, which means the foundation you build on other human beings will hold right up until the precise moment you need it most. Watch what happens inside you when you depend on help. You become careful. You shrink your decisions to fit what your supporters will tolerate. You can't fully say what you see because you might lose the arm you're leaning on. Dependence doesn't just risk betrayal, it pre-betrays you because it makes you betray yourself in advance to keep the support intact. The man with a safety net climbs differently than the man without one. The net doesn't only catch you, it tells you quietly, every single day, that you are the kind of person who needs catching. And here's the second moment you won't enjoy, so let's move through it fast. Part of you has wanted the net so badly that you've stayed loyal to people who diminished you just to keep it. You've called it being a good friend. Some of it was fear wearing the costume of virtue. You held on not because they were worthy of you, but because letting go meant standing in the empty room, and you weren't ready. Breathe, because now it lifts. The fact that you can hear this without defending yourself, that you can sit with a truth this sharp about your own behavior and not look away, that is not common. Most people cannot do what you are doing right now. They will feel the discomfort of this and click away to find something softer, something that tells them the empty room is a tragedy and they deserve sympathy. You're still here. That is data about who you are. The ones who can metabolize hard truth without collapsing are a different category of person, and you're confirming minute by minute which category you belong to. So understand what no help actually means. It does not mean refuse all connection and live in a cave. That's the cartoon version the weak use to dismiss this. It means you build your foundation inside yourself first, your stability, your standards, your sense of worth, so that when connection comes, it comes as an addition to a complete structure, not as the load-bearing wall of a building that collapses the moment someone walks out. The self-sufficient man can have anyone precisely because he needs no one. That paradox is the whole game. And it raises the question that runs underneath everything. If the foundation is built inside you, what exactly is it made of? What is the spine that lets a person stand in the empty room and feel like a throne instead of a grave? That's where we go now, into the actual construction. Self-reliance is not a personality trait. It is a structure you build deliberately out of three materials, and almost no one is ever taught the blueprint. The first material is your shadow. Jung understood that everything you were forbidden to be as a child, your anger, your ambition, your refusal, your hunger for more, didn't disappear when you suppressed it. It went underground and took your power with it. Shadow work, real shadow integration, is the process of going down into that basement and reclaiming what you exiled. The man who has integrated his anger is not angry. He is unafraid because he has met the part of himself that others use fear to control, and it no longer frightens him. The subconscious mind you've been at war with becomes, through this work, the source of an authority no one can argue you out of. This is the part of individuation that turns a frightened pleaser into someone with a spine. The second material is your standards, divorced from outcome. The Stoics understood that the only sustainable foundation is the one entirely inside your control. Not whether they call back, not whether they stay, not whether they approve, but who you are while you wait. When your sense of worth is anchored to your own conduct, rather than to other people's responses, you become genuinely unshakable because you've moved your center of gravity inside the one fortress no one else can enter. They can withhold their approval. They cannot touch the standard you hold yourself to. That's sovereignty. The third material is solitude itself, converted from wound to resource. This is where it all turns, so stay close. Everything I've described, The shadow integration, the internal standard, the self-mastery, requires exactly one condition to develop: solitude. The very thing you've been grieving is the only environment in which the spine can be built. You weren't denied the foundation. You were handed the construction site and told it was a prison. Let me show you the life on the other side of this, and I want you to read it as already true. You wake, and the first thing you meet is not anxiety about who's upset with you. It's your own clear mind, and it belongs to you. A message goes unanswered, and you notice the old flinch try to fire, and it simply doesn't catch, because there's nothing left in you for it to grip. You make a decision that would have required 3 people's permission a year ago, and you make it in silence, in seconds, and you move. You walk into the empty room at night, and it doesn't echo with loss anymore. It feels like the throne room of someone who finally stopped begging for company and became the kind of person whose company is sought. That is not fantasy. That is the predictable output of the forge, once you stop fighting the fire. But there is one more layer, and it's the one that separates people who understand this intellectually from people who are actually transformed by it. And it lives in a word you've been reading on the screen this whole time without knowing what it meant. Here is the second reversal, and it cuts deeper than the first. Everything I've told you, the forge, the spine, the sovereign solitude, could still become the most sophisticated excuse you've ever owned. You could take all of this and build a beautiful philosophy of isolation, a justification for never trying again, a noble-sounding reason to stay exactly as wounded as you are while feeling superior about it. The shadow of self-reliance is bitterness, pretending to be strength. No excuses is the gate, and it is brutal because it removes the last comfortable story. The story where you are the betrayed one, the overlooked one, the good person the world failed to deserve. As long as that story runs, you are not a king. You are a victim with excellent vocabulary. The throne and the victim's chair cannot be occupied at the same time, and the price of standing up from one is giving up the strange comfort of the other. Watch how the excuse hides because it's clever. I would build something, but I have no support. I would take the risk, but I have no safety net. I would become who I'm meant to be, but no one ever helped me. Every one of those sentences is true, and every one of them is a door you're choosing to stand in front of instead of walking through. The man being forged doesn't deny the heat. He just stops using it as a reason to stay raw metal forever. He converts every "I can't because no one helped" into "I will" precisely because no one will. That conversion is the entire difference between a hard life and a forged one. And this is where the comfortable reveal themselves, quietly, as a different species than you. They need the excuse, they are organized around it. The whole structure of an ordinary life is a negotiation with reasons not to, and most people sign that treaty young and never reopen it. You're reading this because some part of you refuses to sign. That refusal is rare. It's the thing that's been making you feel like an alien your whole life, and it's the exact thing that's about to make you unrecognizable to the people who knew the old you. So make the decision now, before the clarity fades, because clarity always fades and only decisions made inside it survive. No help is not your tragedy. It's your tuition, already paid. No friends is not your verdict. It's your forge, already lit. No excuses is not cruelty. It's the gate you walk through to claim what the heat has been making. And what it's been making, you're about to finally understand. Now we arrive at the room I asked you to remember at the very beginning. The empty one. I told you it would change meaning by the end, and that you'd understand why "it's over" and "you made it" are the same words. Here it is. The version of you that needed the room to be full, that one is over. The one who measured his worth by the count of arms willing to hold him up, who paid rent in loyalty to exist in other people's lives, who treated solitude as a sentence, that man is finished. It's over. And the reason that's not a loss is the thing the forge was hiding the whole time. The fire was never destroying you. It was burning away everyone you were only pretending to be, until the only thing left in the heat was the one self that was always indivisible. The empty room was never empty. It was occupied this entire time by the person you were being forged into. That is the crown no one hands you. It does not arrive by committee. No friend confers it, no help bestows it, no permission unlocks it. It is the one form of authority on earth that can only be self-made, in solitude, under heat, by someone willing to drop every excuse and stand up from the victim's chair for good. Kings are not elected by the crowd. They are forged in the room the crowd abandoned. You weren't left behind. You were left alone, long enough to become someone who can never again be diminished by being left. So this is the only thing I'll ask of you, and it isn't really a request. It's a recognition. If you've felt every word of this land in a place you've kept hidden for years, comment the word forged, not for me, for you. As a mark in time, the moment you stopped grieving the empty room and understood what was being built in it. The moment the heat stopped meaning destruction and started meaning becoming. And if you're ready to keep doing this work, the real work, individuation, shadow integration, the strategic self-mastery that the comfortable will never attempt, then subscribe, because this is the only place that treats your solitude as a forge instead of a flaw, the only room built for the ones being made into something the crowd can't comprehend. Picture it now, one last time, and let it be the version that's already arrived. A year from this moment, people who knew the old you will sense something they can't name and can't quite reach. You'll move through rooms without needing them. You'll be sought by the very people whose approval you once begged for, and you'll feel almost nothing when it comes, because you stopped needing it the day you got forged. They'll call it confidence. They won't know it was fire. And whatever you do, don't stop now. The on-screen video matters more than you think. What was forged in solitude has a next chapter, and you don't want to meet it unprepared. Trust me. I'll see you there. See what others miss. Know what others fear. Become who others can't.